And today I wanted to check in on how are you communicating? Because life is not like a game of solitaire, right? It's not a one person game. On a daily basis, we're interacting with other players, with other human beings in their game of life, right? And whilst the playing field might look the same and some of the rules may be the same, like the laws we have to abide by, how we each actually play the game, the strategies that we apply, and how we interpret how the game should be played and how we do play it is kind of unique to us, right? It's our interpretation of how we want to play. So, because of that, it's critical to remember that how we interact with others is actually within our control. That if we want to be successful at this game, we have to speak the same language in order to get people on our team, in order to convince people to maybe follow our strategy, in order to hook up with others and follow their successful strategies. But how do we know that the language we're speaking is actually the language that others can hear? How do we know what language to speak when everyone plays the game differently? I mean, there's the language of our country, there's the language of our job or our workplace and all those unique acronyms and abbreviations that exist. I know coaches, have different abbreviations. I know when I was working in IT, there was lots of acronyms. I know the organization that I worked for, we used to say you had to have a handbook of all the acronyms and abbreviations to understand the language of the company. There's the language of our bodies, the way our bodies respond to us, and only we can hear and feel that. There's the language of our relationships. You may or may not have heard of the love language and how people show and want to receive love is different. There's the language of learning. There's visual learning, auditory learning, kinesthetic learning. There's the language of thinking. Some people are introverted thinkers, others are extroverted thinkers. With all those different languages, how do we ensure that each interaction we have with others in this game of life is actually successful? How do we ensure we communicate in a way that the other person can understand? The key lies in understanding that other person's way of playing the game, what their constraints are, what their aspirations are, what their needs are, what their wants are, acknowledging that there are differences and finding that mutual playing field. So the key, acknowledge those differences first. Then find the common ground or the common language, that aspiration that you're both working towards. And then communicate, then start the interaction. Yesterday at the dinner table was such, an interesting example of this, which is why I thought to talk about this today. But, we're sitting at the dinner table and my youngest daughter, who's turning 12, brought up this topic. And it's a topic that absolutely, is like a red flag to a bull to my husband. And, he reacted, typically she got upset and there was a whole a whole disagreement, if you like, that we had to work through. And, at the end of the day, it's because she viewed what he was saying in one way, he was viewing what she was saying in another way. Her method of communicating is not his method of communicating. And so we had that, butt heads. We had two people that just play the game differently. And as I spoke to my daughter and, pointed some of that out, and I actually spoke to my husband who, when the emotion comes down, he can sort of start thinking again, they saw it. But it happens every day. It happens to me. I'm sure it happens to you. So remembering that the key really lies in acknowledging that there are differences, in acknowledging that there are different languages that we speak, and trying to find that common ground, that aspiration that you're both working towards, whether it be wanting to have a successful father-daughter relationship, whether it wanting to be, whether it being having a successful working relationship, whether it being trying to achieve a particular goal with your team, or with a customer, whatever it may be. All right, acknowledge that there are differences. Find that aspiration, that common ground that you're both working towards, and then from that place, learn to communicate. All right, that's it for today. Remember, you too can unleash your version of success. Thanks.